In theory, the finding of the Supreme Court cannot be changed. So, in theory, we do not exist. If they want to bring again the ZEDE, they have to do a new law. There is no other way. So they will negotiate. Now, being Honduras, they can even say the next constitutional court that the previous constitutional finding was anti-constitutional. No, I saw things more radical than this. So I don't know.
This episode of the Free Cities podcast is brought to you by Veritas Villages. Now, Veritas Villages are freedom-oriented, energy self-sufficient luxury communities designed for people who want to enjoy peace of mind and real freedom in today's unpredictable world. Join a community of like-minded neighbours who value privacy and independence in a place where you can use Bitcoin, including for the purchase of your property. www.veritasvillages.com/free cities for more info, and in the meantime, enjoy the conversation. You know, when you look at the Free Cities thing, it's like a spectrum, right? You've got the Liberland at one end, full-blown sovereignty. They're looking to, and then you've got intentional communities at the other end, and all the stuff in between. But they're moving together. I can see that. And now, because a lot of the intentional community end of the market is really starting to buzz, which is people just saying, do you know what, let's just forget all the sovereignty stuff to begin with. Let's just create the place. And it's easier, in a way, to start with.
Definitely it's easier. I mean, if you are a full-fledged libertarian, it's not what you're looking for, but they move the Overton window. And it helps. If they have success, like the one of Patrick, for example, they move the Overton window.
Yeah, but they are. Like Patrick's thing is, it's funny, it's interesting. I'm not sure Patrick realises how big Patrick's thing could be, because it's a great idea and there's a demand for it, and all you have to do is build it. That's my impression of it, just by looking at it. And because I'm seeing now, just by talking to people, that lots of people are having that same idea in different ways. Some people are more public than others. Some people are quite quiet about it. They just want to do it and be left alone. They don't even want to sell the idea. They just want to make it for themselves, you know. And it's you know, it's happening, and it's a decentralized network of people looking for freedom and autonomy. And since 2020, there's this massive push of new people starting to think, and now it's like the guerrilla army of people looking for freedom cannot be beaten because they're decentralized. They're all over the place. They're hiding and ducking and diving and making this and doing that, and it's really super.
Yeah, I agree. COVID increased the demand by 30 times. There are people that would never be libertarian that became libertarian. But Patrick is very effective because he can feel his community pretty far. If you think about the Free Stater he's more successful than the Free Stater, if you think about smaller, of course, but with all the publicity, advertising, and that the Free Stater had in the United States, they could move only, 12,000 people in 20 years. And he moved hundreds of people.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I just mentioned this to Rahim. I was talking to Rahim before you, and I was in Liberland recently and talking to Vit. But do you know about the setup of Liberland? On the Serbian side of the river, they have a small area called, and they just bought some land. It's an old campground, really. It had a clubhouse and stuff, and they basically based themselves there because it's on the other side of the river from actual Liberland, and it's a place you can go in. It's in a different country. It's neutral, all this kind of stuff. And I was laughing. I'm saying, Vit, look, this is Liberland. We were in Arc. I said, we're here. He said, like, you don't have any hassle. If you go over there, people give you shit. They're always trying to knock your houses down. They're doing that. But here, like, we're living this beautiful life, swimming in the lake, saunas, all this kind of stuff. And it was a joke, but there was a lot of truth there. You know, the idea, and this is where I think all these different parts of the Free Cities movement come together. The network state idea, the idea that there is this group of people who all share this idea. In the case of Liberland, it's Liberland. Liberland is the idea. And you can have a Liberland like they do. They've got in one of the South American countries or Central American countries, there's a community of Liberlanders there that are just living together. So the idea of Liberland is a decentralized idea, as well as the fact, yes, it is a place. It is a place in Cornusiga, or they call it, which is that little bit of land that no one claims. But it's also in that little pocket of Serbia, and that's the best place to be. It
sounds almost like a diaspora of a phantom diaspora, people of Liberland that now are around the world, setting their community. One day they will go back to their promised land in the Danube.
Oh God, yeah. Maybe that's how that idea begins life. The dispossessed people. They never even had their land to begin with. They just decided they were dispossessed. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm excited about what's happening with you as well. By the way, I laughed out loud when you sent me that email. I don't know whether you remember. I almost spat my coffee out. I won't say exactly what it was, but I sent you an email saying, will you come on the podcast? And you sent back, something which was very anti-government.
Well, I said that I just don't care what they think. I mean, last year and the year before, the year before you invited me, and I said my lawyers suggested me not to come because I tend to put the foot on my mouth. But at this point, I don't care what they think. I mean, we already sued them, and so I don't think anything worse can happen.
Right. Well, that's where I'd like to start then, because I just did a quick Google search on news to see what people were talking. I did it across all languages and got ChatGPT to sort of, I was trying to get a sense because, Massimo, you're very quiet and secretive. Not secretive. You don't shout and talk about Morazán, and it's obvious why. You're not interested really in attracting people there necessarily. Certainly not in the West. You don't need investment there necessarily, So you are one of the projects that I don't hear much about. Your sister company, sister project, the other ZEDE that everyone knows, Próspera, is always in the news. And they have high-profile people going there, and they have all this kind of stuff. So I did a look to see what's happening, and there's literally nothing happening, even in the news. All that there was in 2025 was about the ZEDE Morazán lawsuit, new arbitration against Honduras, company promoting ZEDE files lawsuit. There was nothing else. That's the only story, right?
Yeah, and I mean, also because in Choloma now, basically everybody knows us because he has a relative inside, and they just don't believe anymore to the lies of Libre, the party in government. And so they just let us alone. I mean, it's but in these years, for example, theoretically, we do not exist, right? According to but nobody of authority show up. The people of the Ministry of Education or I don't know, the equivalent of the IRS to check the business inside, the small business we have. The police came once because he said that some of our, one tenant of us had stolen a car, and it was true. I mean, the owner had Apple things, so the car was
tracking
there.
Device, yeah.
So we went with our security to talk to the guy, and the guy basically disappeared and left the car there. So we gave the car back to the police. The owner didn't even wanted to put a criminal complaint. So we are even starting to working with the local police. I know my people of security call the local police when there are new tenants to know if, a little bit of background to avoid that they are marero criminals. They call sometime to know if a person like a certain person live with us. So we are becoming normal in the society of Choloma.
So do you think then that, because Próspera wasn't left alone, right? I think people did turn up there and try and close gates and do all kinds of stuff. Nothing happened in the end. But do you think the distinction, and I will always make this distinction between you and Próspera, in being that you are basically a place for local Hondurans, and Próspera is more likely to be a place of income? As I know that a lot of people in Próspera who work there are Hondurans, but the kind of, and you see this a lot when journalists fly to Honduras to find out about the ZEDEs. Almost never come to, us, in fact, I'm always calling them out. I mean, there's a new one. You're going to love this, right? I want to know your opinion on this, because recently, this was about a week ago. I doubt you know this person, but there's someone who I respect, a very well respected sort of investigative journalist called Whitney Webb. Have you ever heard of her? No. Whitney Webb is very thorough in investigations, and she tends to join the dots at very high levels: corruption, conspiracy, this kind of stuff, right? But they also syndicate articles by other authors, and she syndicated an article by a British journalist. It was called "City-States Without Limits," right? And it's a massive article, really long, like 10,000 words, all about.
It's almost a book.
Yeah, and in two parts. I mean, I'm guessing 10,000 words. It took me a long time to read it. I don't normally read things that long, but I was just enthralled because in fact, you're the perfect person to talk about this, actually. I'll give you a synopsis of it. Basically, the synopsis was, this guy had basically put together, and like I say, it was going out on a very legitimate channel that I normally respect. It said, a powerful group of Silicon Valley oligarchs are pushing for the construction of privatized city-states aligned with a global network, and they want to move away from nation-states to create an international network of city-states. So it's a conspiracy of oligarchs. Now, I kind of respectfully call you an oligarch, okay? I'm not a tech one, but
I think in that case they were referring to the network state of Balaji.
Yes, they are.
This is pretty open. I mean, Balaji is like this. They want to create a network of city-state with a certain level of autonomy from the state. We just happen not to have anything to do with that. We are completely another segment. I hope they are successful, but if Balaji come to Ciudad Morazán, I would go away disgusted by the idea of living in a place like that.
I know, but the point is, Massimo, that the way it's written is it's a grand conspiracy. It's literally a conspiracy of tech oligarchs who want to live in city-states and outside of the rule of the government and stuff, which, like I say, is kind of true, but it's not a conspiracy
because
right.
they openly say that.
Yeah. Okay. So, so you don't. I mean, do you think there's any dark way to look at this? Is it?
No, it's not dark. I mean, it's a political aspiration of Balaji, Naval, and this group that we don't know really how many people they are, and. Yes, it does as a part of natural rights, but it's especially frontier. It's a part of utilitarian. I mean, they realize that in a place in which there is not a political process as suffocating as there is everywhere in democratic states, they could do great things. And they are open about that. And I don't think they really want to secede or to have a complete. They just want to have a pretty advanced level of autonomy. So it's not easy, but not necessarily seceding. And definitely it's not a conspiracy, because Balaji talked about this one day and the day after also. I mean,
I think that the way it was pitched was that someone like Peter Thiel, for example, who's getting a lot of bad press at the moment, he's I think anyway, and certainly where I look, he's been painted as the Antichrist almost, Peter Thiel, because he's part of Palantir and he's part of this and that, you know. But the idea is that they believe, and there's this new thing called the Dark Enlightenment, which is an idea that there needs to be an elite class that rules and all this kind of stuff, and they're part of it. And you know, I mean, I certainly can kind of see that there's truth in it in a way, and they certainly do believe this stuff. But whether or not it's a massive conspiracy is a strange concept, because I'm part of this movement in a way, and I see the people and I interact with them, and you know, like say take Destiny. Destiny's a good example, because he's a. What do you make of Destiny, for example? What's your impression of knowing what's going on there and knowing who's involved?
First of all, it's extremely serious. I mean, there are surely tens of millions and very likely hundreds of millions behind Destiny. They spent at least 5 years, maybe more on that. And there are people that are another order of magnitude in terms of the resource they can move compared to the usual people we're talking about, with the exception of these guys in Silicon Valley. And so I'm extremely happy that they did it, because, as I told you last time, I really don't care which one of the various ways of reaching liberty is going to happen. I just want at least one to work, right? So it's another option. Now, I had the opportunity to talk with Olivier once, and he's clearly a libertarian. There was a strange position that it's against, it's not only against the coercive state, it's also for some reason against the power of corporation. So he doesn't want a corporate governance in Destiny. And as you know, my model, which is the Entrecomms, is totally corporate, but the idea is that if you have 50,000 Entrecomms in competition, liberty comes from that. So it's very different, if you want, inside libertarianism, but still a libertarian place. And I actually tried to challenge him. I said, but you're a libertarian place, so if I buy some land and I build some building and I rent them, and being my land, I decided there are some rules, like not spitting the floor or things like this. So how are you going to stop me? I mean, it's not very libertarian to stop me if I buy from other people. And it didn't really have an answer. But yeah, anyway, any one of these things, small, like a small community that has nothing in terms of autonomy, or big like Destiny, or super big like the Brunei thing, anyone, it's another opportunity that something will stick in the wall. And the good thing of this is that if one stick, it will create an ecosystem, because it will suck the capital and the best people from the world. The people that want to be free, which means they don't want handouts from the government. They want to produce themselves for themselves. And these are the people that pay most of the taxes in the world. So once one of these places works, it will be a magnet, and the other country will have to compete, and the only way to compete is to offer something even better. So I am extremely optimistic that if something sticks, then it will work.
There is obviously, actually, before I go on, can you do us a favour? Can you put that bottle on that side? Thanks. I agree that theoretically that it'll make the state have to compete more, but often we don't see that. We see the opposite, that the state just basically decides not to compete and just makes new laws and legislations or blocks things. That seems to be the modus operandi at the moment. If you look to Europe, for example.
I'm talking about other states. Yeah, but yes, I mean, in this, now you have centripetal forces of cartelization, for example, the 12% minimum. So on one side, they say, okay, to avoid that this guy use their feet to look for the best place to stay, let's do this law of 12%. But then to have a cartel of so many countries, difficult. So at the same time, they stab the other in the back, like the Italian law that you pay 100,000 euro and you don't have to pay other income taxes. It's unbelievable, but there are a lot of people that are going to Italy. It was unthinkable because taxes were so high. Now, Italy, it's a place where you live very well. So if you don't have the problem of taxes, it's actually a pretty good place to go. And they were so successful that they went to 200 and now to 300. And and then Spain and Portugal tried, but the case of Portugal was, that they eliminated it because the local socialists said that they were taking all the best houses. So at the same time, there is a tendency to cartelization, which is awful, but nature, competition, also push them to separate and to provide something new. So I am hopeful and relatively optimistic that in the next 3-5 years something will become more than I actually think more than one, and then this type of competition will force other countries to compete. Well, we'll see.
What about Europe, though? A lot of people think Europe is a bit of a lost cause in that sense. I mean, all the places where, free city projects are popping up don't tend to be the UK, Europe, these kind of places.
Or the US.
And it doesn't look like they will either, because
they're not desperate enough. I was with, I met, what's the name of the guy that invented the ZEDE, Paul Romer.
Paul Romer.
Paul Romer 12 years ago. So it was the first version, not the red. And he wanted to meet potential entrepreneurs that were interested in doing that, because there was nobody interested. I mean, the typical families, they were not interested in these things. It was an idea of Pepe Lobo, Juan Orlando, Ottavio Sanchez, and him. And so he asked me at the end, what do you think about ZEDE? I said, living in Honduras is great. I've been a libertarian all my life, and it's here, it's happening. So I'm very happy. Being a libertarian in general, I would have preferred that this would have happened in a place with rule of law and space. So I made the example of Canada, Australia, Finland. And he looked at me as I was stupid, and he said, only desperate countries do desperate things. And Europe is not desperate enough. There will come a moment. I mean, and the political class, it's even kind of committing suicide, allowing all this unfiltered immigration is creating a blowback enormous. I don't understand why they do it. I don't understand what is for them.
Well, I mean, there's two answers to that. One is it's incompetence, and the other one is it's an intentional thing. There's a grand conspiracy. I think probably if you actually dig down into it, there's an incentive model that basically draws the wrong people into positions of power now, because they don't compete in the real world very well. So they choose the kind of the legislative world or the political world where they never lose their job. And as a result, you end up with the shit show we've got now, which is all the terrible people in power and all the productive people basically trying to release themselves from the terrible people. And more often than not, that these days, it just means leaving. It just means arbitrage with another country.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But it doesn't make too much sense in the public choice sense. I mean, politicians are not necessarily stupid. Usually they are not. They are parasites, but they are not stupid. So, yes, they are corrupt because they need money for the campaigns. But to allow, I mean, what in your country, I mean, what is happening with, it just doesn't help Starmer. What's the name of
Starmer.
Starmer. It doesn't help him. It just create a blowback for the blowback. So
but Starmer, I think, is
a true believer.
Is involved. No, I don't think. I mean, he's very socialist at heart. I mean, when you look back to his past, he's been involved in very socialist movements and ideas. So there's that side of it. But also, he's one of those politicians who's very much not an independent thinker, and he's part of a much bigger blob, the World Economic Forum, this kind of stuff. And I don't know what happens at that level. It might, but I think at that level, people talk about things on a much bigger scale, and they do talk about, I don't know, maybe they do talk about the movement of people en masse from one place to another in order to elicit some, result, or, the rise and fall of nations. There's kind of stuff that someone like me, I can speculate on, but I'll never at the moment be sat at a table discussing an actual plan to create those things. The question is, does that stuff happen? I think it does. I mean, maybe you've probably sat at a lot bigger tables than me, but
no, not really.
Right. Okay.
We're politicians.
Right. But that might be with one of the solutions that I look at when I think about it, because when I look at someone like Starmer, he's not a very impressive person at all. He's really the opposite of an impressive person. He's very limp-wristed, and when he speaks, he can't speak candidly because he has to think about everything he says, because basically he's saying what someone else has told him. He could never sit down like you and me here and just talk shit or whatever. He couldn't do that because in the end, I would be able to run rings around him intellectually, because I could just point out the idiosyncrasies of what he's saying, and then it would all go to shit. So I don't know. I think something's happening in the world. I think you could easily say that, like we all know that the financial system needs to be reset, right? That seems blatantly obvious. Everyone's now, middle class people all over the world are starting to realize shit. Things aren't good for us at the moment, and we know that historically things get reset. Normally, big wars, tend to reset an economy. Whether they have that option now, who knows? But there's other ways to reset, and maybe at that high level, these are the conversations that are being had, and they involve the destruction of things that normal people hold very close to their hearts. I don't know. I
think
know.
This is a little bit conspirative.
Sure.
If you read, for example, the typical example is the rumble of August or July before the First World War. I mean, there were just stupid people stumbling toward the war. It was not a conspiration at all. It was just stupid and ego-driven people that... it was like a chronicle of a foretold death of Garcia Lorca. I mean, so I don't know. I tend not to believe in these things, but I do believe that there are reset, because the the current Ponzi scheme that is the Western state. I mean, it's not what kill it completely is the demographic crisis. And they are not gonna, they could solve it with immigration, but not with immigration they are having now, because this guy comes to live, most of them, not all, but most of them come to live at the expenses of people that already live at the expense of a few guys. And so something will happen. I hope it's not going to be disruptive and violent like a war. Maybe our movement will be a solution in a way, because people will start to move, and the state will have to bring, because they don't have the money, so they will have to bring down the welfare and to change the incentive of society.
Well, I mean, not only that, but we will be, our movement will be able to release the pressure. And look at Dubai. People flock to Dubai, but nobody goes there to take welfare. I mean, the more places like the Dubai that exist, the more opportunity there is for people to just do stuff rather than go somewhere. And that does work. I mean,
absolutely. I live in Monaco. It's the perfect example. They don't have any taxes. The only taxes there is 20% VAT that they have to split with the French. So with 10% VAT, they have the most functioning city I saw in my life. It's perfect.
Yeah, well, talking of functioning cities then, let's talk about Morazán. And what can you tell me about the current state of play with the ZEDE law? Here's my take from, I mean, I'm obviously I'm investigating on the internet, but it looks like the law was rescinded. The government were then sort of pushed into a corner to make a move because they said, right, you're illegal. And they didn't do anything, and they didn't actually do anything. And as per the agreement, you had the right to then sue them for an extremely large amount of money. All the ZEDEs could, and that was part of the backup plan if this ever happened, which went into effect. And now I'm told that politically, the consensus the politicians that were saying we're going to shut down the ZEDEs are now saying we've beaten the ZEDEs, and what they mean is there's no new ZEDEs coming online, which is true, but the ZEDEs that exist are basically, looks like you're going to survive.
So we have to unpack this. Regarding your first question, why they harass Próspera much more than us, it's I believe, first of all, because they're much more visible, but also because they have a few persons in Crawfish Rock that have an incentive, because they are receiving money from, but not from the government necessarily, from international stupid ONG to harass Próspera. We don't have anybody like this. At the beginning, they thought we were going to expropriate because all the lies, but now they don't care. Many works in Ciudad Morazán. So we don't have any group of people that really want, as an incentive to keep, bothering every day. Yeah. The government itself, it's like is afraid of moving, and so in our case, the only thing he did, which is important, is to take out the custom office. And I understand that he did the same with Próspera, but he didn't do it with Orquídea, because if he does with Orquídea, there is a revolution there, because all the city of San Marcos de Colón lives because of Orquídea. And it's like they think that we get a better opportunity of getting more money if they come to us. I don't think there is any difference. So they basically left us alone. Now, with the election, of course, they have to say something, because people ask, they're kind of stupid also, because they said if the opposition arrive, they will let the ZEDE work. But I mean, you just said that you eliminated the ZEDE for good with the decision of the Constitutional Court, and now you say that they have to vote for you to avoid the ZEDE. I mean, it's strange, but they are starting to use it. The election is going to be in 29 days, the 29 of November. So now it's a very hot moment in politics there. And so in the last few weeks, there is a little bit more talk about the ZEDE, but really, and also the decision of the Supreme Court came the week after the famous video of Carlos Zelaya surfaced. I don't know if you know all this inside baseball of Honduras. There was the brother of Mel Zelaya, which is the husband of Xiomara Zelaya, the president, and Mel is the boss. Carlos Zelaya is a famous narco-trafficker. Everybody knows he's a narco-trafficker.
And they're related?
Huh?
They're related?
It's the brother of Mel.
Really?
Yeah, Carlos Zelaya. And he was the vice president of the Congress, because it's in the car after his brother. And they caught him, probably the American let out a video in which is with 3 famous narco-traffickers that now they are in jail forever in the US, in which this guy were giving him money. And so there was a moment in which there was a lot of attacks in the press everywhere again, because the Attorney General, which is a person of them, didn't do anything. And so there was a lot of pressure of civil society. And so mysteriously, the Constitutional Court that had 3 years to decided in that week. They had to divert to bring a new, different cycle of news. Sorry, interrupt you.
No, I was about to interrupt you. Sorry. I just got to get this straight. I don't know who all these people are and how they're related to each other. The guys you were, the narco guys and this story you were just telling, explain again who that was in the political sense.
Carlos Zelaya is the older brother of Mel Zelaya. Mel Zelaya is the one that was president 12 years ago, and
right, but he's not running again in the new elections, right?
Mel Zelaya.
Yeah.
No, because there is still the article in the Constitution that says that a president cannot be re-elected.
Right. So that has a negative impact on the ZEDEs, because his brother was the guy that basically was in power when the law was created.
I don't think the ZEDE has nothing to do with that. I mean, the video that surfaced, I think he had a very bad impact on them, on the Partito Libre. And so they needed a new cycle of news, and so they call, because they packed the court in a disgusting way. So they like the meme that says, the one of the meme that says, release the bomb, or release a new news to make
keep everyone watching.
And because there was no reason to decide in that moment for the Constitutional Court.
So, and is there any relationship between the current opposition, who seem to be doing quite well, and this government? Are they this former government? Is that going to have any effect on them and on their ability to win the next election?
There is a relationship within the Liberal Party, the National Party, with the Libre, with the party in government. Well, first of all, there is always relationship, because these guys are the same political economic elite, they're mixed up. But of course, we are under election, and now it's getting very hot. I mean, there are something that it's dangerous. The head of the armed force asked to get the result of the election before it's published. He said, according to the Constitution, it's completely smoke it because the Constitution doesn't say it.
Why?
There are many theories. I think it's actually a good sign because I think the Libre asked him to defend he's a man of the current government of Libre. And I think he has been asked to defend fraud. And in the army, there are lower level, at the level of colonel or so, that are clearly not going to do that. So this guy Roosevelt is his name, wants to have the real result in order, if he has to intervene, and there will probably be the need to intervene because somebody will come in the street. He can show the guys, his people, the one that goes hitting in the head the protester or even shooting, that the real results are that. I think this is the only reason. There are other theories, but I mean, it's when you see the politics of Honduras, it's like when you read Sasha. It's an old Italian writer. It's nothing is like it appears. There are a lot of.
Last time we spoke, you said that you'd stopped building. You'd stopped. The industry was moving out. I think at the time. What's the current state of?
No, we built since then. Industry left because it's simple. I mean, these guys sell stuff in Honduras or export, and they are at the mercy of the government, so they could not stay there. They left. Now the industrial space is completely rented, but it's rented as a warehouse of a company outside, so they don't have workers. Their workers are not inside, because if they're inside, they have to follow our labor law. And if they follow our labor law, they are afraid that the government will go against them. So, yes, we have been building, but the original budget, the one that we were executing, I mean, we've been unlucky because we got the charter in December 2020. And the objective was to spend 150 million in 3 years to complete the community. But then arrived COVID in March, just 3 months after. And yes, we could work, but everything was slow. So we could probably do in that year 1/5 of what we were supposed to do. And then in November 21, this guy won, the Libre won. And so we didn't build much. At that point, I decided not to build anymore and to see what was happening. But there is a lot of enthusiasm. When I go there, I see all this guy that says, my tenants, you should, I live very well here, why don't you build other houses? My mother wants to come here. And the school, a big school outside asked us to come in Ciudad Morazán because it's safe. And we are now building the building of the school, because before we had only 25 kids or something like that. So they were inside houses. We didn't need a building, but this school already has 250 kids apart our 25. So we have to build and rent something for them. So there is all this enthusiasm, and so I'm probably investing $2 or $3 million per year, no more than that, just to keep the ball rolling. It has nothing to do with the original. I mean, $50 million per year in Honduras, you will see thousands of people working there. Now you see 80, 100, no more than that. It's small constructions.
So, so you're building again, but tentatively, and is that residential?
Yes, since the last time we talked, we finished 44 houses, the new block of 44 houses, the townhouse like before. We just finished 1 month ago, or 2 months ago, the building with 70 studio and 7 commercial spaces, and we wanted to build something not really industrial, logistical, like small warehouses, like the one in the US. But then the school arrived, so we have only one group of people that build. So we diverted the people to the school, because in February they start, and the school in Honduras start in February and finish in November. So there are 250 people coming in, and I have to find a place.
But on the 29th of November, when the election happens,
yeah.
if it goes the other way, so if it goes to the right, is that a signal to you that full speed ahead again, or is it?
No, because we have to reach an agreement. So let's see, and the percentage have improved, right? But to be able to start again, there must be a series of things. Each one is very plausible, but everything has to happen. So the first thing is that this government must lose, and politically this government is at the end. I mean, I don't believe there is more than 20% of people that would vote Libre. But unfortunately, the opposition didn't go with a single ticket. In Honduras, there is no second round. So if they do some fraud, I mean, fraud is possible, 5%, maybe 10%, or you go to the fraud like the one of Maduro in Venezuela, but this was not even fraud. It was just fake, the results that he said. And there is no way the Americans would allow something like happen in Venezuela. But they can steal 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Because you do it, in that case, you do it at the ballot. You basically pay money to the representative of the other party, and so they change the count. And so there is if the opposition would go together, there was no way Libre would have win. But in this case, if the opposition is going separated, you can win with a plurality. Still, I think Libre will lose. Let's say that there is 80% possibility that the opposition wins. But even if the opposition wins, we have to reach an agreement. And the well is poisoned. And so even the opposition doesn't want to again take at the end of the day, Libre with the calling the Supreme Court resolved the problem for them, right? So for them to proactively go back to this issue can happen only if Próspera wins something they cannot pay, which my estimate is, if it's more than $500 million, probably they do not have the money to pay, and they will try to get an agreement.
But would they pay even if it was 250 million? Would they actually pay that?
Well, they have to pay because 10% of the GDP of Honduras is international cooperation. Technically, international cooperation, at least 50% of it, is not gift, it's loan.
Yeah, but we're talking about governments here, Central American ones as well. They don't keep their promises often, do they?
No, but if if they don't pay arbitration of the ZEDE, of the ICSID, the worldwide cooperation, most of it, technically cannot give money to Honduras. The money of the cooperation is 10% of the GDP of Honduras, is $2,500 million per year. And given that most of it is theoretically loans, everybody knows that these loans will never be paid, right? But they are technically loans, and they are prevented to make loans to people that it's a dead pit at the ZEDE, at the ICSID. So they cannot not pay. That's impossible. If they don't have the money to pay, they have to reach an agreement.
Right.
So the first thing is that I'm sure Próspera, I'm sure we will win, but it must be big enough to make the government move. And I estimate that this is maybe 500 million, because it also gives a political cover to the guy of the opposition. Look, I am against the ZEDE myself, but if I pay $1 billion, we are basically bankrupt. So I'm trying to fix the problem. And the good thing is that I'm going to fix with these 3 ZEDEs, and we won't have other ZEDE. And I mean, it gives a good political cover. Now, I don't know what will be the money given to Próspera. I'm talking about Próspera because we, compared to Próspera, are small mosquitoes, right? But Próspera is coming with something big. By the way, you probably know that they brought back from 10.7 to 1.7. You heard it, right? No, the famous 10.7 that they asked 2 weeks ago, they said that they reduced it to 1.7 billion. I really don't know why, also because we are close to the election. It's not nice for us, but they must have the reason.
But Próspera did that themselves.
Well, yeah, yes, I understand. So in the SU now, Próspera is asking not for 10.7, which frankly between us was a ridiculous amount, but is asking for 1.7, which is still a lot of money.
Well, maybe that was a PR thing, maybe. Because there was a little bit of a backlash, wasn't there? People,
yeah, but
it doesn't necessarily
for 3
make,
years.
Yeah.
Why do it 1 month before the election? I don't understand.
Yeah, pass. I don't know.
That's something that they know. I don't know. But anyway, 1.7 is still a lot of money. They actually spent 250 million. Now you know that the ICSID doesn't look what you spent, but the NPV of future flow. But at the very minimum, I assume they have to give back what they spent. So it should be between, at this moment, I guess, it's between 250 and the theoretically 1.7. But I hope it's going to be like 1 billion, right? So in this case, the government has to. But what the possibilities of 1 billion? I have no idea. Let's say 50%. So we had first thing, Libre has to lose 80%, and then 50%. So the possibility are 40% now. At this point, okay, there is the interest of the government to reach an agreement, but they actually have to reach an agreement with Próspera. And we have nothing to say here, because the level of autonomy that Próspera needs is much, much higher than the one we need. So whatever is good for Próspera, it's good for us. On the other hand, the government will never reach an agreement with us and not Próspera. If they reach an agreement, it's for the two. So basically, I'm out of the negotiation because I don't count anything. It's Próspera and the government. And so, what is the possibility they reach an agreement? Próspera really need pretty strong autonomy. Eric is a tough negotiator, by the way. Sometimes I think too tough. And there are things that are very difficult to accept for the government. And so how many possibilities they reach an agreement? There is also the possibility that maybe Próspera finds something in Africa and says, give me the money, give me the $800 million. Fuck you. I mean, I tried to do it, but I'm going there now. So I don't know how to give this possibility, but let's say another 50% that if the government has intention to reach an agreement, they actually reach an agreement. So the 40% that we were, it's going to be 20% because these things are sequential, right? So even if the possibilities are still very low. I estimated close to 10% last year. And what I think it changed is the possibility of Libre going down a lot to no more than 20%, and the possibility of reaching an agreement if there is a strong decision of the ICSID increase a little bit, because I see that many people in Honduras, not only in Choloma, start to question the narrative, start to say, this said the only thing that brought is work, especially not in Próspera, not with us, but in Orquídea. Place where to live, which is our case, and a lot of exposure with people, important people, and even celebrities with Próspera. People with tens of billions of dollars came to Próspera. You know who they came. But even the Kardashian came. So,
really?
Yeah, one of the Kardashian, I think the fat one came. One of the three.
I don't know that. I know the tech guys that came and stuff,
but yes, but so the people in for the Kardashian, for the day-to-day people, the populace in Honduras is more important than Tim Draper, definitely.
Yeah,
so sure, they say, "Fuck it, this thing is working," and they basically are not doing anything bad. After 4 years, I don't see anything bad. So a lot of people is starting to question the narrative. Not enough, but maybe it will help the politician to do something more to make Próspera happy.
Are you saying that according to the litigation, according to the suing part of this deal, Will nobody ever agree on just dropping that if they just say, look, they rescind the law or something like that? Or is that just never going to happen? Does it have to go down the route of suing the government, even if the new government get in and they obviously kind of pro ZEDE?
Look, we are in Honduras. And so in theory, the finding of the Supreme Court cannot be changed. So, in theory, we do not exist. If they want to bring again the ZEDE, they have to do a new law. There is no other way. So they will negotiate. Now, being Honduras, they can even say the next constitutional court that the previous constitutional finding was anti-constitutional. No, I saw things more radical than this. So I don't know. They might find a way of inventing that in that case the Constitution. Just to understand the enormity of the finding of the Constitutional Court. The head of the Constitutional Court is a lady whose book is the constitutional book in the university, and it's written that the decision of the Supreme Court cannot be ex ante. And it's written in the Constitution that cannot be ex ante. And they do it, and I don't know if they wrote it in the finding. I think they wrote even in the finding, but definitely they said in interview, yes, the Constitution impede us to take a decision ex ante, but this was so grave that we decided to take an ex ante definition. So, this is the level. We decided that we, the guardian of the Constitution, we decided the Constitution do not apply. So, in Honduras, what is the Constitutional Court is political. It's whatever the problem is the Constitutional Court change every 7 years, so they will still have 3 years. On the other end, the Constitutional Court member have a tendency of changing political tendency when there is another guy in power. And there is also the possibility of taking out, to create a crisis and to nominate a new constitutional court. So everything can happen.
So all right, we'll wrap it up in a sec. But what are you yourself, Massimo? What are you preparing for? Like you say, you'll study building again tentatively. Is that for the foreseeable future? Is that what you're going to keep doing?
Let's see what happened now. At the end, now it's becoming a charity because given that I don't have the $70,000 of taxes that I had for more than 1 year, I have to put some money. I have the rent, but with the public service, I'm putting like $25,000-$30,000 every month. So there will be one day that I have to stop this. But this is the most important project to my heart that I had. So it's very difficult for me to cut. So I will see. Now in 1 month, let's see if the government is kicked off. And if the new guy come, I will probably wait for 1 or 2 years if they reach an agreement. We'll see.
Well, I'm going to take that as a positive. I think that's pretty positive. I honestly don't believe you'll ever stop doing it, to be honest, Massimo. I think you can say that now. But I think when it comes to it, when you're at a town hall meeting and you can see all those people in front of you, I don't think you'll ever give it up.
Yeah, but you have to consider that I am really a libertarian, and I believe that destroying money, it's actually a negative for society. I don't have anything against charity, but charity is sterile. I mean, when the person that put the money dies or is not interested anymore, the initiative is killed. If you invent a new business model, like I don't know if we invented or already existed, but our business model was working. So when it works, not only you can grow with the flow that it creates, but other people copy you. So there is an entire new industry. And this makes me proud. I mean, yes, there is, in a libertarian logic, there is the beauty of the market working, not even the money that you make, but you are creating, almost in a Prometheus sense, you're creating something new from, but you can do it when you make money. If you don't make money, you are actually destroying wealth. And also, the eyes of the kids that play safe in the night, it's very nice. And there is the profit if you make profit. There are all reasons why an entrepreneur does this. But starting to lose money and to sending the money there, it's really against my deep belief. Because I believe it's a form of distraction of money. Frankly, it's not much for me, the $30,000. It really doesn't change the needle. But it's ideological against everything in me to lose money.
Would you do another one then? Would you take it to another country if an opportunity arose?
I've been asked. I am 60. Tim, I'm kind of tired. These things needs decade. Even with Ciudad Morazán, I knew I could have brought it maybe to 50,000 people, and then maybe somebody else in 50 years would have complete. And now, and it's not only, it's first of all a question of age, secondly, it's a question of geography. Honduras I spent 20 years of my life in Honduras. I mean, if I have an opportunity to do it in, say, Tanzania, I don't know shit about Tanzania. I go there at 60 years old and I start to build. Surely I will invest money with some entrepreneur that will do things like this, but I most likely will not be the entrepreneur.
Well, let's stay positive then. Let's end on a positive one.
But we are positive at the beginning. There
I
are so many
positive.
things that something will happen.
Massimo, I'm positive. I've got the luxury of observing more than it being involved. I'm involved as much as I can, but there's a limit. My strengths are in, putting the message out often and things like that. I'd love to be involved in different ways, but I've ended up doing this in this movement, and I love it, and it's very important as well. But it does give me the luxury of being somewhat disconnected from the actual day-to-day bullshit that you have to deal with, which is what you're describing here. And I have other parts of my life that have drudgery and bullshit as well, and I don't like them. And I come here for the refuge, but if this place is the place that you try to run away from because there's a lot of bullshit and a lot of this and a lot of socialism and then I don't know how these things operate. I don't know what the mechanism is. I just know that there's a lot of people who are getting turned on to the idea of free places in all their myriad of forms, and what you're doing has been as one of the pioneering ones, and one of the best. I think what I love about Morazán is it's like a really honest version of what we're trying to do here. And you were the person, Massimo, that turned me on to the idea that free cities are for local people. And I had never thought of it before until I spoke to you, because I came in with the kind of digital nomad, sort of Próspera, and the truth is, when you actually think about it, when you go home and think about it, yes, you are creating free places, not for libertarians, just for normal people. And I've kind of got Mark Edge to thank for that as well. He was you and him together talking to you guys separately have made me realize, libertarian utopias, in inverted commas, and I know there's no utopias, but they're not necessarily places where loads of libertarians come. They're places where normal people go looking for a better standard of living, and the better standard of living is freedom. And freedom is the thing. Freedom is the thing which is causing people to their preference to change to saying, I want to be there, not here. And that's what I love about what you're doing, because you've kind of unashamedly done that. And you don't publicize it much. It's very hard to find out anything about Morazán.
If they have taped it, watch my presentation today, because 80% of the time it was Ursula, the mayor, that talked. And she said exactly that. I came with my, she's a madre soltera, single mother. I came with my daughter to find a safe place. I couldn't believe it was so easy. Then I opened the cafeteria without asking for permission. I decided on Saturday, and on Monday it was open. And and at that point I asked around. There was Alex Ugorki, it's always there. He said, yes, we're libertarian. And she started to learn about libertarianism. And he said, I am libertarian, she said. And she's also started to read books and starting to grow a solid doctrine behind. But the reason she came is that it was a nice place to live, without bullshit, without the police that extortionate you, and with the school that works, and with the developer that at the end is, if you want, is the guy that put the money, like the state, that actually go there and listen to things like you have to fumigate more, and the day after there is a fumigation. So there is because they are customer, I have to fulfill the customer. And it's exactly what you say. I mean, these are everyday people that find a libertarian society. It's the best society to live, and people that move to Choloma prefer to come to us than to go to somewhere else.
Do you think it's important to put a name on it? You just mentioned the lady I just met recently, the one who was speaking, Ursula, who came there basically for a better standard of living, and now she's reading, I don't know, whatever, Ayn Rand, whoever, Is it important to know all that? Does that help solidify that idea, or is it just like, okay, I like it here, I'm going to stay here? Is it important to put a name to it, libertarianism?
No,
freedom?
no. So most of them, they say when they know, they're libertarian. Oh, good, nice thing. But so others are more curious, like Ursula, and started to ask. But the effect can even be, I mean, she told you that I knew about the mother because mother and father are separated, but she told me also the father, they were both hard libre. I mean, the party that is against us. And they said, and I was talking with them a couple of months ago, with the mother, not with the father. And she told me, I will never vote again Libre in my life because they lied to me. I mean, now my daughter is here. I come here to see my granddaughter, and I realize it's a beautiful place that does nothing. I was lied, and I will never vote. And she doesn't really even... Maybe definitely she heard about the word libertarianism, but she's not interested at all to understand what this libertarianism is. But the idea that this party betrayed her, it's a vote less for the son of bitch.
Well, look, I'm grateful for the place, and I think you're actually one of the best examples of this, specifically because of that thing. And I love that about it, because I think amongst libertarians, especially Western libertarians, the idea is that, right, we need to get all the libertarians together and everything will be fine. And that's actually probably...
It's the old Ayn Rand idea of Galt Gulch. The problem, if you put the two libertarians together, they start to fight immediately.
Well, look, good luck with it all. Obviously, you don't need my luck, and I don't think you'll ever give it up, Massimo. I think you'll be doing it till the day you die, even if it gets really bad, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point if you know? I understand your point about it being antithetical to an ideology that destroying capital is a bad thing, but maybe maybe in the longer term, it's not. It's more short-term destruction of capital, long-term creation of capital. Who knows? The chart's up and to the right. Anyway, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. I love talking to you.
Thank you. I mean, coming here, we talk only to the interview, but really seems like seeing an old friend and catching up. It's beautiful.
Good. Very, and we shared a coffee downstairs, which is very Italian. I know you're Honduran, but you can't take the Italy out of an Italian. So thanks for coming in, and yeah, I'll see you in another year or so.
Thank you.